So you want to buy a new camera or your next camera and you're not too sure where to start. Well, in this video, I'm going to run through 5 easy steps you can use in purchasing your next camera or your new camera. Also in this video, I'm going to be discussing how I came to purchase my FS7. Let's jump into it. Number 1, what are you using it for? Are you using it for YouTube? Do you need a flip out screen? Are you using it for videos or photos or both? Do you need it for a doco? Do you need a lightweight setup? Do you need something you can travel with? There are lots of different variables. Work out exactly what you want to do with the camera because that will really help you in narrowing down your choices. After all, you want to choose the right tool for the job. I was at a point in my career where I had the option of investing in a camera that could help me with smaller projects and enhancing my showreel. I also had 2 web series coming up and it would have been easier to have my own camera instead of hiring externally because both the jobs were over multiple weeks. So I started having a look at cameras out there and I ended up coming up with the Sony FS7 and the Canon C whatever. It's probably 200, maybe 300, I can't remember, whatever was coming out at the time. Which leads me on to number 2. What's your budget? You just work with what you have. There's always ways to work around it and you can always upgrade later. Pro tip, sometimes the model below what you're after is actually not that much different to the model that you were originally after. And also it's cheaper. I didn't have a lot of money saved up, but I was prepared to either get a bank loan or a credit card. And I knew I was in a good financial position to do so. I did decide to go for the bank loan because it seemed a little bit safer. So I worked out feasibly how much I could pay back per month and how many jobs I would need to do to pay that camera off. I was also in a fortunate position where I could rent my camera out with a rental house and get more money that way. All of this information combined allowed me to work out exactly how much I could borrow, which in turn determined my budget. But the price points between the cameras were really different, and that leads me to number 3, which is do your research. Doing your research is as simple as jumping on YouTube. There are heaps of channels out there that have real-world customer reviews. Go to a rental house or camera store and hire your camera for a week. You get to play with it, you get real-world experience, and then you get to return it at the end of the day if it's not correct for you. Speak to people you know. I spent a lot of time speaking to somebody I know who purchased an FS7, and we ran through exactly what he bought with it to make it work as best as it possibly could. Pro tip though, take all reviews with a grain of salt. Everybody has a different purpose for their camera and sometimes that can skew their review. In my case, I looked at countless reviews. Some of them I watched all the way through, some of them not quite. It is best to watch them all the way through though, because you may take 1 or 2 points away even though the whole review might be rubbish. I also looked at a lot of comparison and shootout videos between the C300 and the FS7. Do take those with a grain of salt as well because the compression rates on YouTube could be pretty shit. I also already had some EF mount lenses, so that kind of made me lean towards Canon. When I did my research into mounts, I found that there were no real good options for EF to PL mounts, and if I wanted the PL mount, I would have to fork out extra for the camera with the PL mount, and then there was no way to use my EF lenses. So I'd be stuck with a camera that doesn't have any lenses. The FS7, however, is native E-mount, so I could use E-mount lenses. I could also get an E-EF adapter, and I could use my EF lenses, as well as Dens makes a really good E to PL mount, so I had the option of using cine glass as well. This made that camera incredibly versatile. This leads into number 4, which is accessories and other costs. You may have enough for a camera, but you also need to factor in the costs for accessories. You need storage for the camera, you need a bag, you need extra memory, you need batteries, you might need lights if you're setting up a kit, you might need a microphone, you might need a tripod. There's a lot of different things you have to think about. Basically, you need to work out what's most important to you, what exactly you need to get started, and then you can build your kit from there. Only by starting a kit will you work out exactly what you need to improve your kit. So I spent more time chatting to friends who had those cameras and tried to work out the best options for accessories for both. At this point, I was leaning towards the FS7 a bit more, so I was mainly focusing on that. After determining that I could rent my camera out at a rental house, I learned that I also need heaps more accessories to set it up, so it is user-friendly for everybody, not just myself. If it was going to go through a reputable rental house, I would have to make sure that it is worthy of going through that rental house. This meant buying a Vlog plate. Luckily enough, the rental house was able to provide the batteries for me, which was excellent, because that would be another cost that I do not want to spend right now. I also had to make sure I had extra cards, a better reader, a good shoulder rig, everything, including the bag that would be really good to organize all the equipment into, as well as safe for travel. This amounts to a lot of money spent. So, number 5. Hunt around for a good price. You'll be surprised what sort of deals you can find out there. Sometimes, if you calculate the costs of your shipping and imports, it is cheaper to buy locally. If you do end up buying locally, you might even be able to go in or call them up and see if they can do a bundle deal for you if you purchase a stack of items together. In my case, I needed the FS7 quickly for a job that was coming up in the next few weeks, so I did have to rush around and find somewhere. At that time, the FS7 was actually on backorder at most camera stores in Australia. I had a really hard time finding one. When I did find one, however, it came with the kit lens that I just didn't want. But I had to go for that camera anyway, because it was the only one in Australia. So I decided to go for that, I took that lens, and I ended up selling it. I used that money to purchase more accessories. But as fate would have it, a few hours after making the purchase, the job that I had in a few weeks went away. It's all good though. I got the camera and I knew I was going to use it for other exciting projects anyway. I'm very glad I did it. I put a lot of time and effort in researching the camera and exactly what I needed. All of that effort was totally worth it. So I hope you've taken away something from this video about investing in your own kit. And if you have any questions about my kit, please leave them in the comments below. I'll eventually be making a video about my FS7 and the accessories that I purchased with it, as well as how I set it up. So if you have any questions specifically about that, please leave them below as well. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next Sunday. Oh yeah, check out my t-shirt.